Hello, welcome to the Craft Castle. My name is Ashley and I have a confession to make. I have never made a card before, not one. I have been a Cricut crafter since 2012 and I have never made a card. Is that strange? Now, I have to tell you the funniest story. So recently I was in Tennessee at the Makers Gonna Learn Studios. Me and the entire Makers Gonna Learn family were all sitting around a table and we were discussing future projects. As we were discussing the projects that we were going to be working on, one of the girls mentioned something about a greeting card and they didn't know how to make it. And then another gal from the Makers Gonna Learn family said, I don't know, ask Ashley how to make it. And I just sat there like, what? They all looked at me like, you don't know how to make that? And I'm like, well, I've actually never made a greeting card before. And the entire room stopped. Gasps, air, crickets, chirps. I just could not believe it. Tanner then says, Ashlee Falco, do you know that that's how I got my start? How in the world do you own your own cardstock company and don't make greeting cards? I'm like, I don't know. Couldn't tell you. I've never made a greeting card. So when I got back from the Makers Gonna Learn studio, my only goal was to make a greeting card because I could not be the girl who owns her own cardstock warehouse and never has made a greeting card. So I made my first greeting card. Do you love this thing? And it's a shaker. Oh my goodness. This was actually really easy to make. I don't know why it's been 12 years and I've never made a card, but oh my goodness. So we have this card and then when you open it up, there is some writing that I made the Cricut do, but this card right here was actually really easy to make. And because I was bound and determined to make my very first card, I am going to make this one with you. So if you have never made a card before, or you want to learn how to make a shaker greeting card, we can do this together. Are you ready to get started? Let's go. Okay, so the very first thing you want to do for this project is head over to my cardstock warehouse, pick up the cardstock that we're going to be using for this project, but then also the SVG file of the shaker birthday card that we're going to be making today. Then what you want to do is go over here to Cricut Design Space and press upload, and then upload image. You want to find that SVG file that you downloaded from my cardstock warehouse. And then you want to drag and drop it into Cricut Design Space. You can rename this file if you want, and then just press upload. Then what you want to do is click on the uploaded file and press add to canvas. And at this point, what you want to do is resize this to the size that you want your card to be. You want to make sure that this right here is locked. And then we're going to resize the height. For me, I am going to change my height over to 6 inches and press return. Okay, we do need to customize this just a little bit for our needs. So what I'm going to do is select on the file, right click and press ungroup. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this back piece right here and drag it down here. And I'm just going to right click and press ungroup again. Now, do you see this line that's right here? You're going to see it over here on the right-hand side in the layers box. We just want to click that line, and then we're going to come up here to operation. Instead of it being a basic cut, we want to click that and send it to score. We are going to put a score line down the middle of this rectangle. Now what I want to do is add in a personalized message to the inside portion of my card. So what I need to do now is I'm going to go over into text. And all I'm going to do is put in my personalized message that I want to put onto my card. When I have my message done, I'm just going to come up here to fonts and I'm going to select a font. Okay, so for my particular project, I'm going to be using a pen to write my phrase onto my card. So what I want to do is come over here to these lines, and I am going to go over to writing fonts. Now, if you do not pay for Cricut Access, what you could do as well is click this free font, and what's going to happen is you're going to get all the free fonts that have writing, and you just want to pick a font that you like the most. I am going to choose the text Telegram. And then I'm going to click out of this box. Now you want to make sure that your operation right here is set to pen. If it's not, all you need to do is click this box and set it to the pen. You want to make sure it's not a cut file. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this into my card, and I'm going to put it on the right hand side. And all I'm going to do is set this and eyeball it where I want it to be. Now I'm going to leave a little bit of room at the bottom so I can put my signature and anything else that I want to put on my card. Now, when I have my text box in the position that I want, what I'm going to do is select this rectangle plus my text box and that score line. So all 3 pieces. And I'm going to come down here and press attach. What you just told the Cricut is that we want to not only cut this piece of paper, but we also want to write and score this line all within this rectangle. So now all I'm going to do is drag this over to the right. And then I'm going to come up here because I have a little bit of customizations that I want to do right here. So this right here is going to be the very top piece of our card. Now we have a lot of small little pieces that are going to be cut. So the fun little thing that I like to do is I'm going to select the very top of the card, shift on the keyboard, the 2U, and also the banner, and do Command D, which is duplicate. And so it's going to look like this. We're going to drag this down here. So for this piece right here, I'm going to select the banner and also that 2U. And I'm going to come up here to operation and I'm going to set it to score. Now what I'm going to do is select the white piece plus the scored banner and that 2U. And I'm going to come down here and press attach. So what I just told the Cricut is that I want the Cricut to score these lines right here. So when I go to assemble this later, I know exactly where to glue my embellishments. Okay, now all I'm gonna do is going back up here to this white piece, I'm gonna delete it. I don't need it. So this piece right here is going to be your shaker portion. That is what I would like to consider your donuts. The reason why it looks so different than typical donuts for a shaker is I want to make sure that all the sides look really nice and clean for your finished product. So depending on how big your shaker components are going to be, you may need a couple of these. So what you want to do is copy and paste, creating as many shaker donuts as you're going to need. For me, I am going to do 3 copies of this. So then this piece right here, this is going to be what houses your shaker. What I like to use is acetate or clear transparencies for my shakers. So this right here, I'm just going to drag to the side. It needs no additional changes. So all I'm going to do now is select all the bows and this long piece of ribbon over here on the right. How I selected everything is I just pressed shift on my keyboard and selected all these pieces. I'm going to drag these down and this over. Then what I'm going to do is the same type of concept that we have here with the scored lines. What I'm going to do is select the happy birthday, pressing shift on my keyboard and also that banner. And I'm going to Command D, which is duplicate. And I'm going to drag this down here. Now for this, what I want to do is I want to click on only the happy birthday, and I'm going to come up here to operation. Instead of it being a basic cut, I'm going to do a score. It's going to look real weird, but what we're going to do is we are going to select the banner plus the now scored lines, and we are going to come down here to attach. Because what I just told the Cricut is I want to score in all of these lines so I know where to glue the happy birthday later. Now all I'm going to do is select that and delete it. So this right here is the very back portion of our card. All I'm going to do is right click and press ungroup, and doing the same concept that I've done with here and here, I want to make sure I glue these in the correct spots. So I'm going to Command D, which is duplicate for this, drag these down. Then what I'm going to do is come up to these balloons right here, and I'm going to change them from basic cut to score. And then I'm going to select both pieces and press attach. Okay, so at this point, what you can do now is customize your card to the colors that you want. And now when I'm done doing that, you just want to save your file and then you want to press make. Okay, so then what you want to do is pull all the cardstock that you're going to be using for this project. Okay, so these are the colors that I'm going to be using: cyan, lime, green, white, and then also a sheet of acetate. You don't need a whole lot, just a small little piece. And then what you want to do is cut this out on your Cricut. When you insert your mat, you want to pay attention to what color you are going to be cutting. So for my white, what I am going to need is the scoring tool. That is going to go into your option A holder. So you just want to push that in until you hear it click and then close the clamp. And I am going to cut this on the fast cut mode on my computer using the cardstock plus method. Okay, then you just want to keep cutting all of your cardstock until you run out. So if you are doing the writing feature like me, you're going to eventually get to a piece of paper where you're going to need to add in a pen. Now pay attention, because the very first thing the Cricut tells you to do is have the scoring stylus put in place. So that's what I have here. So then what we're going to do is press the blinking C button. Then it's going to stop and it's going to say to take out the scoring tool and insert the pen of your choice. I'm just going to be using a fine tip pen that it comes with your Cricut. We're going to insert that into the Cricut, closing the clamp. Then we're going to press that C button. Okay, you want to make sure to never forget to take out your pen when it's done writing, because it will dry out and get ruined. I have ruined so many pens by forgetting to take this out. Now I need to switch it for my very last one. I'm going to need to switch it back over into the scoring stylus. And then we just want to eject our mat. For acetate, I like to cut on the cardstock plus mode. When it comes to acetate, sometimes it doesn't cut all the way through, so I always like to try and peel it up off the mat, which it's cut perfectly fine. Now, if you notice that your acetate did not cut all the way through, instead of ejecting it, press the C button again and the machine will suck the mat back in, recutting your acetate. Okay, then when your Cricut's done cutting, you can just eject your last mat and move your Cricut off to the side because we're done using it. Okay, so this right here, we just need to set to the side. The very first thing you want to do is assemble your shaker portion of your card, because that's the thing that's going to take the longest to dry. So it's going to be hard to see, but there is going to be these faint lines that are on your piece of cardstock. That's where you're going to glue your colored balloons to. Now I'm going to be using my favorite precision craft glue. Any craft glue will work. I would suggest it be a precision craft glue because you will have less mess of glue everywhere to not ruin your project. So all you want to do is take one balloon. You just need a little bit of glue, not a whole lot. And we're going to put this down on the inside of where those score lines are, making sure that everything's nice and lined up. Doing the same thing with the second balloon. And you also want to do it for the third. Now what you want to do is grabbing one of your donuts. We're going to turn this around, gluing on the back side. You want to make sure that you put glue around the entire balloon. So even like right here in this thin spots, you want to make sure and put glue down there. The reason for this is you don't want the colors of your glitter to seep into the other balloons, but also out of your card. Okay, then all I'm going to do is I'm just going to put one small little line around the entire outside of my card. Turn this over. You want to make sure that we line up the corners as best as possible so everything looks good from the sides and even on top. So doing the same thing, we are going to keep gluing all of our donuts together, making sure that you put glue down the middle of your balloons, but then also around all of the balloons, just like that, where you can see all the glue in between my balloons and then all the way around, and then just one line around the entire perimeter. Doing the same thing, we're going to match the corners up, pushing it down. Last one, same steps as before. Okay, and for this particular card, because I'm very worried about the pieces, right, these small little pieces right here really being stuck together, all I'm going to do is take my brayer and I'm going to roll this down nice and stuck on there, sealing up everything. Now you will see that I have a little bit of extra glue in places. So all I'm going to do is just take my finger and clean up the glue so you won't be able to see it when it dries. Okay, now that we have that done, what you want to do is take your confetti of your choice. This stuff right here is like a thicker sequin type glitter, which I love because it's not as messy as like traditional glitter. And all I'm going to do is only put this like lime green sequins in this lime green balloon. Then I am going to only take the green sequin glitter and only put this in the green balloon. Okay, so if you trust your precision craft glue, you could use this to seal up your shaker. However, my precision craft glue doesn't really work well with plastic, so I'm going to be using a silicone based glue. I rebottled it into something like this with a finer tipped precision tip just so I don't get messy with it. Doing the same process that you did before with the balloon donuts, you want to make sure that you seal up the entire edge. So I'm going to go around my entire balloon just like I did with the donuts, making sure that all the glue is good and sealed around my actual balloons. I don't want my colored glitter to start going into the other sections. I want to keep them separated. Now I can't lift this up to show you because I don't want the glitter to get everywhere, but there is glue all around the balloons just like I did before. Then what you want to do is making sure your piece of acetate is nice and clean. You're going to lay this on top of your balloon. Make sure not to slide this around a lot because you don't want your piece of acetate to get cloudy. Just to make sure it's nice and sealed, I'm going to take the tip of my pickup tool and I'm just going to seal around the entire balloon. What I also like to do now is take my silicone glue and I like to go around the balloons one more time, focusing really on where the sheet of acetate is. I like to go around the sheet of acetate. Then I'm just going to take this little tip on my pickup tool and I'm going to really seal the edges of my acetate with that glue. The cool thing about silicone glue is that it is a gap filler. So if there is any gaps in your glue, you're filling it up with the silicone and then it's going to be gap free. Now I don't suggest shaking this because your glue is still wet, but you're going to see that everything is nice and sealed all the way around all the edges. It looks ugly as heck, but it's okay because we're going to fix that here in a second. Okay, so now that I have this gluing and drying, what I'm going to do is take this very top portion of my shaker. You're going to see that there is some score marks here. That's because this is what the Cricut is going to tell us where we need to glue our items. So I'm just going to come over here, gluing all the way around the perimeter of the outside of my thing. I'm also going to go just add a little bit of glue in between my balloons so it lays down nice and flat. You don't need a whole lot of glue. Paper is designed to lay flat, but just enough to where it will lay flat. Okay, then we're going to do the same thing we did before, and we're just going to line up the corners, pushing it down. Don't shake this too much because your stuff is still drying. Okay, we are going to work on the banner. You can see that the banner has some score marks in it. That was helpful because now we're going to be able to know exactly where we're gluing our happy birthday lettering. So what I like to do is I like to put my glue onto where I'm going to be gluing my pieces to. So I know that everything that's inside these letters is what is going to be covered with paper. So I'm going to put my glue inside the lettering. Okay, and see how I put all the glue inside where the lettering is going to be, because then I'm going to be able to take my letters, my cardstock letters, using my pickup tool. You could use tweezers as well. I'm going to pick it up and I'm going to place it into where the Y is scored at. Doing the same thing with all the other letters that we have. Okay, there is the finished banner, and you can see that all of my letters are nice and lined up, so there's no issues with spacing or curving. Then what I'm going to do is doing the same concept with the 2U. I'm going to put my glue inside the lettering. However, I am not going to put glue down on here because I'm going to use a piece of foam tape to give it a little bit more movement. Okay, when you have the glue placed down, you just want to add in your lettering. Okay, and before I put in my banner, I am going to glue down my ribbon pieces. Okay, then I want to make sure that the ends of my ribbon go past the line of where my banner is going to be. That way it looks like the banner is going to be above my balloons. Okay, then I'm just going to add in my bow ties. So for this banner part, you can see that it's laying flat. However, I want to curl this a little bit so it gives it a little bit more dimension. So all I'm gonna do is just use my finger and curl the paper just a little bit so it gives it a little bit more movement. Then I'm gonna take a blue piece of foam tape and I'm gonna put this in the middle of my banner, just like that. Okay, then what I'm gonna do is take some cardstock glue and I'm just gonna go on the corners and tip of my banner. So 3 dots here, 3 dots here. Then I'm gonna line up my one corner with the right, other corner with the left, and then press down on everything. So now instead of that piece of cardstock laying completely flat, you can see that there is more movement to it. So it's nice and accentuated, just like a traditional banner. So stinking cute. I think my aunt's gonna love this. Green is her favorite color. Now for the funnest part of it all you want to do is close this in half. Here is our score line. So we just want to close this in half. Bending at our score line. If you wanted to make it a harder crease, you can take your brayer and just roll it in half. Okay, so then the most important part is you want to make sure that this right here opens up and is forward. So once you have that, you're just going to take this, place that down, making sure your font is facing you. Then we are going to take our card, turn it over, and you want to put glue on the back side of this card. I'm going to go all the way around the perimeter and then also just like this. It's okay if it's messy and ugly and gross because it's all going to get hidden onto the card. So just like that, we're going to turn around and center this onto the front of our card. Once you have it all nice and glued on there, we have our card here. It opens it up and there is our wording. Here is what the side looks like. So it looks nice and clean on the edges of our card. Everything looks nice and clean. People are gonna go, how in the world did you make this? They're not gonna be able to figure it out because you did such a good job gluing it together.
All right, so I need to know, how easy was it to make this card? On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being extremely easy and 1 being way too hard, I scrapped that project. Let me know in the comments of this video. I sure hope you loved the finished version of this card because I'm absolutely in love and I can't wait to see my aunt's reaction. You know, she was the person who bought me my first Cricut, so I am going to send her for her birthday a birthday card of my very first greeting card. All right, y'all, I sure hope I inspired you to create, and I'll see you later.